So we've got some instructions here how to make a simple little purse with a button. Okay, so what you need is a piece of material, a bit of an old t-shirt, a cloth that you don't want, and it's approximately 15 by 15, but I've cut out a little square approximately 5 by 5. I've got this shape because we're going to fold it in half, and I'm just going to pin it. You don't have to pin it. If you haven't got any pins, it will stay because it's quite small, just to hold it together. And in that way, we will be sewing down here, even though it is a fold, so you can see all the stitches along and up, and then we will put the top over, make a little slit and put a button there. So we're going to start here. I've got my thread. I am using an embroidery thread purely because I think you'll be able to see it better, but you can use normal cotton. And I'm going to take it through the back. I've already done my knot. Hopefully it will stay. And I'm just going to do, to begin with, a simple running stitch, which means taking it through and bringing it back. Now, if you find it easier just to take it through the back and pull it, that's fine. You can turn it over, leave a little gap, push it back through. That is just a simple running stitch. There will obviously be a little bit of a gap where you haven't got a stitch. So if you want to do a different sort of stitch, we can take it through, and then we can go back almost to the same hole of the previous stitch, push that through, and I'm going to push my needle a little bit further on this time and pull that through slowly so that it's joining up with the other stitch. So back almost in the same hole that I made, and then bring it through a little further on, and that will make all your stitches look as if they are together. So I'll do a couple more. Again, you can take it straight the way through. Take it through, and then you're aiming to get it a little bit down from your previous stitch. I'm trying, there we go, and pull it back in. It doesn't really matter if it's not particularly straight, it will just keep it together. So there's another one, and you're going to carry on all the way down to there. So I've got down to the end. It's a little bit wibbly wobbly, but that's okay. I'm going to now go along the end. So I'm going to go into that previous stitch and along into that previous stitch and a little bit further along. You might not be able to see, so I'm going to take that pin out so that you can see. So you're going to carry on all the way along to about here, and then come up to the side to here, and then we will tie a knot. So I've gone all the way round now until I get to the end, and then I just need to tie a knot. So I'm going to take that through to the back, And I can just show you the back. This is what the back of the stitch will look like. They were the separate running stitches at the beginning, so you can do either. But just to tie the knot, I'm going to go through the fabric, and just before it all goes through, I'm going to put my needle through the loop and pull, and I might just do that twice. So again, I make a loop and I put my needle through the loop, and that gives me my knot. So I can then cut that, and I need to then make another knot in my loop, in my end of my thread, sorry. So I hold it with my thumb and finger, I make a loop and I hold that, and I then put my thread through. I tend to do it a couple of times and keeping hold. I've then got a knot because I'm now going to put the button on. So there's my little purse. The flap is going to come over. So I'm gonna, if I'd like my button there, I sort of need to sort of put it about there. That's where my button's going to go. So I'm just going to move that slightly out of the way. So I'm going to put my finger in my little pouch, and I'm just going to bring roughly where I want my button, my thread through. So I've got my knot and I'm inside the pouch. So I've threaded it through. This button is just from my button box. Spare button I've had from something. The one I did before just had 2 holes. This one's got 4. It doesn't matter what your button has. So I've got to hold inside because I don't want to sew right the way through. So I'm going to do one of those holes so that I've got, and I can turn it over and I can see roughly where, and I'm going to try and get it through that hole and push it back in. Again, trying to not let it go through that bit, otherwise you won't be able to open your purse. Again, have a little look roughly where it might be. Turn it over, and I'm going to go so that I've done it twice. I've gone 1, 2, and I'm going to go 1, 2. On this one, all I did is come over and come over. So it depends what holes you've got in your buttons. So that's 2 on that side. Try and gauge where it might be. Have a little poke about. Oh, there it is. And I'm going to take it through. So the same procedure for tying it off. Just sort of open that a little bit so that you can see. I'm going to go through the material. I'm not going through the button. I'm just going through the material until almost at the end when I've got a loop. That little bit is from where my knot is. Oops. And then I'm going to go through my loop. I'm just going to cut that bit off so that, or I'll hold it with my finger. So that's from the previous knot. So I'm going to do that again. I take a little bit of material and wait until I've got a little bit of a loop, and I take my needle through and just pull, and that gives me my knot, which I'm then going to cut off. Okay, so my button's on. Now I need to know where I need to put my little cut that would go over the button. So if I just put it over, fold the flap over, and I know my button is about here, so I'm just going to pinch the material roughly so I know where it is, so that I've got a little flap, and I'm going to get my scissors, and in line I'm just going to make a small cut. I don't need it very big. I don't want it too big. And hopefully that's in the right place so that I can put over my button. And there you have a little purse. So have a go. Post your creations on Dojo or Google Classroom, whichever you find easier, and enjoy.